Have you ever thought about your life depending on a call that might never come? Or a loved one sitting patiently in a chair at a hospital as they receive news that they would need to be placed on a wait list in order to receive an organ that could save their life? According to the Fiscal Progress Report for year 2024, submitted by the Health and Human Services Department and the Health Resources Services Administration, at least 104,000 individuals were placed on the wait list, most of whom were dependent on a new kidney. Organ donation affects thousands of people every day as they receive news that they would need a transplant in order to live, or if they are a possible candidate and match for someone who is in dire need of a transplant. Being a recipient of a donation, I have learned firsthand the life-changing impacts it can have on a person for their well-being. To truly understand the impacts of organ donation, it is important to learn how it can save lives, address the donor shortage and why you should register, and also address the misconceptions surrounding it. To start off, we will explain the life-saving impacts that it can have on a person, followed by addressing why we have a donor shortage and why you should register, and finally ending with addressing the misconceptions that are commonly used against organ donation. First, let's begin with the life-saving impacts of organ donation and why it should be encouraged. As we know, people's lives can change in an instant when they realize they will need to be put on a wait list in order to get an organ donation, whether that be the recipient or the donor. And Martha's experience in a book titled Kidney to Share, which was published in 2024, she takes us through her experience of being an organ donor and match for Deb Porter Gill. She acknowledges Deb and describes her as being an extraordinary woman and excited to have helped her by donating an organ. Martha was moved to become a donor because previously in the years, someone had the generosity to be a living kidney donor to one of her closest relatives. This extended the life of her cousin, which was in dire need of a kidney transplant. Because of the event, Martha was moved to become a donor and to pay forward the generosity she had once received as she learned about organ donation and all the complex things that go into it. Now that we have covered the impacts of organ donation, it is time to examine the reasons for donor shortage and why it's important to register. Felix Kantorich, editor of Organ Shortage Today, a vital health and socio-political issue, states that COVID-19 and social bias were two of the main reasons as to why the available transplants worldwide have gone down. Because of the drastic suffering many went through during the pandemic, at least 90% of all heart and liver transplants were affected in both France and the US. Hundreds of unjust deaths continue to happen of patients on the wait list as social bias shapes the way many see organ donation. Available donors and waitlist patients lists have both grown in numbers. However, donors are unable to keep with the rising numbers of waitlist patients, causing a gap of 93,301 in only the years of 1991 to 2019. The Nebraska Medicine website states 10 reasons to become a donor and encourages people to do it before they get into a tragic accident, as it is a necessity that it will always be needed. The first main reason they encourage people to apply to be a donor is because of how easy it is to apply. You can simply check it off when you renew your license, which everyone will have to do at some point, and become an organ donor. That alone could save up to 8 lives and be a rewarding experience for all. Having explained donor shortage, we can now address common misconceptions about organ donation. Some people like to paint organ donation in a bad light because they do not fully understand the process that goes into donating and finding a match. According to USA Today, some common misconceptions are that people think that they will receive less care from first responders if they were to be an organ donor. Another common misconception is that they think that organ donation will cause problems with burial and funeral services, which is false because there is nothing different from an organ donor service and a non-organ donor service. Because of misconceptions like these, it causes people to stray away when they are most needed. Now that we have discussed misconceptions of organ donation, we can look at the illegal harvesting of organs. It is true that the illegal harvesting of organs happens in our world, and like all things, even organ donation has its bad side that causes people to stray away and stop them and prevent them from becoming an organ donor. According to Biology Insights, at least 5 to 10% of all kidney transplants worldwide happen because of transplant tourism. Transplant tourism gives people a bypass to receive an organ without being put on the wait list. But international bodies and the World Health Organization have seen these threats and instilled things to prevent them from happening again. Other legal frameworks, such as the United Nations Protocol, are instilled in order to protect and stop these transplants from happening by preventing, suppressing, and punishing those who commit these crimes. The Palermo Protocol is another one that is instilled, as it is mainly implemented to protect women and children from succumbing to illegal harvesting. Now that everything has been explained, we can wrap it up. Organ donation is something that will always be needed in this world because of all the amounts of people that are on the wait list. And science continues to improve in order to correct the common misconceptions that many choose to believe. And as Steve Jobs said, be an organ donor and give the gift that lives on.